Hi, and welcome to the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Wald Hopkins. I am a modern mystic, and I am here to share with you the beautiful wisdom and stories from women that desire to lead their lives inspired by the divine within them. The divinely inspired woman is devoted to walking the path of her soul's calling, tuning into the divinity within to navigate life with ease and grace through all circumstances. She cultivates beauty in her daily life. She is here to share the most authentic self each day through thick and thin. So I hope you enjoy our show today and that you will leave with an infusion of inspiration for your soul and for your day and living your life. Yay. Welcome, everybody, to this next episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. My name is Patricia Wald Hopkins, and I am your host today. This podcast is about helping women align to their soul's calling. And I have a very special, beautiful guest with me today, Valerie Elster. And let me just tell you a little bit about her before we let her tell her a lot about her. So Valerie is an oracle, Akashic, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, Akashic ancient wisdom keeper, world bridger, and divine feminine source of light, facilitating multidimensional healing sessions, consciousness workshops, sacred travel, and ceremonies since 2004.
Yikes.
Yeah. And I know you've done a lot of work on the grids, right?
Yeah.
Especially since 2012. And I've got a lot of other great information here for you. And I'm going to let you tell us about you because that's more fun. And then we can post that information so people can refer back to it later. So thank you for
having me.
Yeah. And so being the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast, can you tell us a little bit about your relationship to the divine and how it inspires you and in your journey in this lifetime?
Wow. Well, thank you for again having me and for that beautiful introduction. As you said, since 2004, I had this spiritual awakening. So that was my time, that I started asking those deeper questions because I had come out of a business world. I was successful internet.com, entrepreneur. And so it was one of those places that I felt so, I had reached these goals and things, but also there was something missing. So that for me, that divine aspect of, well, what else is there and how can I get there? And so that led me on my spiritual journey, and just discovering more about, what's really important and what kind of legacy I want to leave. That's something that I started thinking about because I had achieved that financial success, but I was missing the other piece. And so for me, that was an exploration into the divine, which really is us. We are divine beings. And so for me, it's being able to tune into that deeper wisdom and also the recognition of, I have all of this whole nother part of me that I've never opened the door on, which is what happened in 2004. So, yeah.
Okay. So it seems that you have, been on this path of being divinely inspired for a long time. And it was before 2004. As a child, even, did you have, I've talked to a lot of different people already, about that. And some people are like, it's just as when they were children, they were connected and then it kind of went away for a while. And then how was it for you?
Yeah, that's really common. I was a, very joyful child. I came in the summer of love, and my parents were very much into alternate, ways of being. They left the church, and I was raised in a very I guess, advanced at that time environment, which was all about, new thought, and you have control over your body. So I was brought up in that. I did have I went to private school, so it was like a performing arts school. So I was very much in this divine piece of, who I was and what I was bringing. But I had some shifts in my life. My parents got divorced. I left this private enclave that I was in since I was 3 and went into the public school setting and moved all in the same year. So when I was 10, I kind of had a shift and retreated, more into myself, and kind of got a little lost. I'll be honest. There wasn't a lot of divine inspiration at that time, but I did continue on my own path with the help of my parents. My father, you know, giving us Seth Speaks. I was 13 reading
Oh,
about.
wow.
Oh yeah, that's the
Oh,
kind of.
wow.
I've had that upbringing. Oh yeah.
That's
I was like,
great.
happy, Merry Christmas. Here's all about this woman and her experiences. So I always felt connected regardless of what was happening. I started to feel more of that, those aspects, and also went into transcendental meditation when I was in my early 20s. So I've kind of been prepared, I guess you could say, from my mainly my father, because he very much was about all the futuristic and things that I talk about now.
Wow.
So yeah, so thank you, Dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the time you don't think about it, right? But I definitely had started getting memories, intuition. I always was very intuitive. I did go into business. I was in fashion and then went into business. So there was a lot of inspiration in my early 20s in fashion, and I did fashion shows. I was the assistant director of special events. And so
Wow.
I actually, so I did a lot. I've had a lot of different realities, I guess, from fashion to business to internet to owning my own company and selling it, and then saying, okay, now what, after a few years. So for me, there's something about diving in. I've always, maybe because of my upbringing, I've been, I don't have a lot of fear about new things. I like to jump in and then figure it out later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's that, just the curiosity. So my, having that, just a curiosity, maybe it's just how, again, I was brought up, but understanding that there's way more out here than we know. And, I started to have these like flashbacks. I'd light a candle and go, oh, I've done this before, in a temple or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
always feeling, having more of a sacred connection to myself and my body, and, understanding like the power of that feminine, voice, which is something that I think as you go in your 20s, you don't really you aren't quite there yet, right? You're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that through business, and then had that success, and then, moved further. So I've always been creative. I always had that like zest for life, and curiosity, again, for people, really, for life. Yeah. I'm always curious. I like to study people, I like to see what happens. So I had that early on and was in sales and marketing. And so I think that was part of part of honing that skill.
Studying people, right?
Yes. Social, studying people. And again, just the wanting to make an impact. I think I always have had that, which I think a lot of people in the spiritual community start, they start having those feelings of, there's something bigger than me, out here. And what is it? So I had that passion for helping the world somehow. I just didn't know how at the time.
Right. Well, it's like you were honing your skills, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, for now. Little did I know.
Yeah, because I mean, I've known you a little while, and
a few years.
And I know that your work definitely brings, magic into my life, right? And I that, yeah, no, thank you for doing that. Is that, it feels like that's part of the work you do now, right? I mean, it's like on a very,
Yeah.
grand scale, but, and
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that. How do you connect people to their, divinity, or, the greater,
yeah. The greater blueprint.
the
And
greater blueprint?
I
Yes.
know. It's funny because growing up without an organized religion, although some people say some of the things I was in was, cultish, which was the Est, which is now called the Forum. But back in the day, it was Est Werner Erhard and all of his materials. So that was my first spiritual teacher at 10 was Werner Erhard, because my
Wow.
parents were very involved. So I think that was the trajectory for
Yeah.
looking at things very different. But I think because I didn't have the regular dogmatic, Catholic upbringing, I was free to explore without, having some of that backlash that I think, people
Mhm.
struggle with. And so I've worked with a lot of people, with that religious upbringing, there's usually some guilt or latent memories. So for me, it's really about, bringing somebody into their um, authenticity. I think that's for me super important, and something that once I discovered, Reiki, and then Akashic Records came
Oh,
right after that. And that was in 2005.
okay.
And I had been reading about, I had read a book called, I think it was the Book of Shadows. It's about an attorney, high powered attorney
Hmm.
that completely shifted and went into leading like the Wicca movement in New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great book. So that book was really inspirational, and she talked about Reiki and other things. So it really
Oh, it's
kind
a
of stuck.
woman too.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was a woman,
great.
of
Yeah.
course.
Hmm.
Yeah, it stuck with me, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna, one day type of thing. So, early it was a very instant, oh, I remember this. So I think that for me, I like to make sure, I inspire people to remember who they are, and they have all of these gifts. We have access to not only our soul memories, but of course the Akashic records, which is the memory of everything, the memory of the universe.
Hmm.
That's one of my early studies was getting into the records and working with the subconscious and people's individual records and planetary records. And I was so excited. I remember going home at lunch on the for the training, and I was like, working on my husband at that time, and friends and anybody who was there, because it was so like, wow, this is amazing. I can get right in and figure out what's wrong, and help. So
Yeah.
it's that like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
let's get you back to your original factory settings. I use that term, which somebody didn't like when I posted that on Facebook, but it just means back to the original divine self, because we are divine as we are, and I think
Hmm.
society and a lot of the pieces that we've grown up with have told us, no, something's wrong with you.
Right.
And separation, right? So
Yeah.
separated at the core. I'm separate from my tribe, my family, the earth. I think a lot of this has been about returning to who we really are as divine beings, and also connected to her and connected to the
Mm.
planet
Yeah.
and the cycles of nature. So
Hmm.
for me, it's been about that, right? How do you bring the grounded part up and the divine part down? And we meet in the middle in these human suits, right? At the solar
Yeah.
plexus, at who do I think I am? Well, I think I'm amazing, and here's what I have. And, you know, so I think we're all recovering. I've said this, that the species, the whole human race has PTSD, because we come in with trauma, and then we're
Right.
thrust into all of these expectations, right? All of these attachments to things. And for some, it takes a long time, or never, to realize, well, this isn't natural. This isn't, I'm not my most empowered self, right? So for me, that's the inspiration. And it was to, how can I help others? First, it was the planet, but I think we know that it has to come into us through my own healing and my own, trauma recognition and what have you, was
Yeah.
able to move into a more balanced place of, what am I here to do? How am I here to assist? I
I'm
think
here to assist.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
there's got to
no,
be more than
it's
money,
gotta be more. I
There's got to
mean,
be
one of
that,
the things, like
right?
with people who are just, I mean, part of the reason that I created this particular podcast was to help people who are just, they're kind of curious, but they just don't really know how to get, they don't know how to open up,
Yeah.
and so one of the reasons that I found you was because of light language.
Yes, that's right.
And I mean, so like if you were to drop a pearl of wisdom for, people who are just kind of new, or, even a little bit, farther along, but
Yeah.
really not quite tapping into that greater self or that
Mhm.
divine blueprint,
Yeah.
what what would you suggest to them to find that connection?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at the end of the day, it's what are you passionate about?
Mm, mm.
Or what are the injustices that you see? Right. That's
Ah,
usually where it lies.
yeah,
Like
that
my
gets
sister,
you.
right? Like my sister, it's animals, animals, animals. And I said, but why aren't you working, she's talked about it for years, about a sanctuary and all sorts of things. So that's her thing, right? So it's usually, where's your heart? What is
Where's your
that
heart?
pull, right?
Where's your heart?
Where's your
Okay.
heart pulling you? I mean, this is an important question. And I think one, as we're returning to a heart-based world, because we have no choice. We have no choice but to come back into the heart and meet people there. And that
Mhm.
hasn't been something that we've been
Yeah.
taught early on for the most part. We've been
Right.
taught about love, but as we know, as we've kind of come through, these relationships and marriages and what have you, some of those are based on agreements and contracts, expectations and attachments,
Yeah.
and not truly what the heart is wanting. So I think a lot of this is, as we've returned to this place and understood, well, the money's not going to be, it's not enough. Things aren't enough. They're not enough to take the place of a true passion filled life. That is
Mm.
purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
With the purpose, there's the passion. And so, where are you being pulled? And I think a lot of us, especially the feminine, has been more in tune just historically, because
Right.
we're usually a bit more open on the emotional side, and we have children. Bringing
Mm-hmm.
through a child, is a big initiation. I remember when I had my son, and all of a sudden I started getting information in a different way. And it was
Ah,
very
yeah.
much like, oh, now that you've reached this milestone, you're able to access, right, this
Mm-hmm.
information.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me on this expanded journey for me, that in 2012, that, like, blew open my world, um, because I followed my heart, and it was so strong that I couldn't ignore it. It wasn't just, tap tap. It was like it was an
It was a,
explosion. Yeah,
it was an
it was an atom
explosion.
bomb, I say. And I had learned from that, because it'll be whispers, right? They say first
Mm-hmm.
you'll whisper, and then it'll be louder, and then you'll get a 2x4. So, and it's really, if you think about it, the divine inspiration is from us. This is a higher
Right.
self, if we want to use, that we exist in other realms. And so it's kind of us going tap tap, you know or guides, or what have you, or a mixture of it. But I started learning more about the different realities and different dimensions once 2012 hit, because I was very much in a physical, Reiki. I was working with people and teaching, and Akashic records, and
Mm-hmm.
it was all physical, quantum mechanics, matrix energetics. And then I got into flower and gem essences. So a lot of these things are catalysts, and so I say, what's drawing you? What's that
Okay.
high resonance? Right? Your body has to go, yep, on all levels. That's how okay, this is for me. Just like when you meet somebody, boom, right? All the sparks fly, and you're like, wow. And it's just effortless. There's no
Mm.
try, there's no struggle. It just
Mm.
flows. And that, for
Mm.
me, is a good sign that it's
Wow.
flowing. And I've said that if it's not flowing, I can't, I'm not going to push, but you can tell the signs come in.
Right.
If you're paying attention, to the signs. And so it does take some presence, meditation, tuning in.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
where's the heart and the mind, and how is everything working together? How all the chakras. So it is like that divine intelligence,
Divine
that's what
intelligence.
intuition is.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Divine intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
divine
us.
intelligence. And I mean, I know you're like, a master of this process. And so I think, hearing your words and it sounds like it's yes, it's a natural gift, but it needs to be kind of honed and
Yeah,
for you to be
practice.
very present with
Yes.
your body. And if
Yeah.
you feel that biochemical,
Yeah.
I guess, openness, or the softness is what comes, it's like or an
Yeah.
electrical, you maybe this is what I've
Yeah.
experienced. What is it that your body feels? Does it
Yeah. You just said it
something?
like
Okay.
shing. Right. So my friend
Yay.
Robin, right? Robin calls it shing. I'm shinging. I'm shinging. Um, I'll get a variety of signs, right? I'll
Okay.
see something, or I'll get an image, or
Signs.
a
Okay.
frequency,
Mhm.
right? So
Like ears ringing sometimes.
yeah, it's so many things. So many possibilities. But
Mm-hmm.
because I've honed, like you're saying, I listen, I listen, I feel, I'm tuned in, I get the information. And it started with Reiki. I mean, I started getting that sensitivity by working with people and
Mm-hmm.
working in the
Mm-hmm.
field and listening, right? With Reiki, you're just sitting. I'm not really talking.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
just in their field holding, and I just trust. The trust and the intuition is everything, because it's you, like I said, and it just takes that practice, like anything, where you start to understand and you can discern, oh, that's mine, that's theirs, just the same with the language that started coming
Yeah.
in once I connected to this man because of who he was. And
Mm-hmm.
then we started weaving together, because you unlock certain pieces,
Right.
in the people you meet.
Yeah.
And that was my part of my awakening, which happens, somebody else will show up and it's like, oh, there's a whole nother reality over here that I didn't have access to. So I also notice you get what you're ready for. If you're ready for that next level and you ask, you'll receive it, and then I one point was like, okay, I'm done. No more. I'm done. Because I will, like I said, I'll jump in head first and figure it out later. That's my
Mm-hmm.
personality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just like to know
Same.
stuff. I know. Okay. Well, that's probably why we work together. But it was like, oh, I was teaching Reiki before I was a teacher. My teacher's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. People ask me to teach. I'm like, okay. She's like, come down now. Only because it's not the fake it till you make it. I just have a lot of confidence and trust. Whatever's meant to come through, however it's going to go, your Reiki masters are there. There's no wrong way to do things. So I think because I had that that trust in myself
Mm-hmm.
and trust in what I had already experienced,
Yeah.
I just know things do work out the way they're supposed to. And so, as a Taurus, I'll push sometimes. It doesn't work though. I realize pushing doesn't work and
Oh.
it gets
Mm.
nothing done. I mean, there's action steps, but in the surrender,
Yeah.
right? We talk about once you surrender into I always see a lotus flower. I'm sitting in
Mm-hmm.
it, right? It
Mm-hmm.
creates this sense of groundedness and
Mm-hmm.
patience, right? When you're in a receiving place,
A receiving
of
place. Yes.
course, because that's where the signs come in, which is why the quieter you are and the more time you have to disconnect, if you're in the mind a lot, it takes extra to just be and let the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts come
Mm-hmm.
in, or, meditation's great, whatever wants to happen. Um,
Yeah.
and trust, like I said, I don't have a lot of fear. I think that I've encountered people that have fears about certain openings, and I feel religion is a big part of cutting
Yeah.
people, or
Mhm.
not cutting people, but
Limiting.
yeah,
It's
because that's this, that's this, that's the, so what they do is they create doubt in our own power, right?
Mhm.
And so these are the things that I think collectively we're moving out of, not trusting ourselves, because how can you trust yourself if you're supposed to go through a mediary and go to the church and listen to someone else with the dogma? I mean, many have been taught not to trust themselves. And so we're returning to this trust,
The trust.
and the knowing, the gnosis.
Mhm.
Many of these things I didn't study, they just started showing up, the
The
remembrance.
gnosis. The
Yeah,
gnosis. Yeah.
the
I
gnosis, the knowledge, the remembrance, and because of my Akashic record studies,
Mhm.
I've had a chance to delve very much in those realms. And so I was able to look at and read records, because it's almost like, an access. Once you reach that place, then it
Yeah.
opens up the next
Yeah.
level, and whatever information is there, and it might take you 10 years at that level or take you 2 months. So it's all dependent on the individual,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And again, that journey, what is pulling you? And just like
Wonderful.
the universe, sometimes we're go, go, go. Sometimes we're sit, it's ebb and flow, just like look at our planet. We're moving pretty fast, and we've got all these planets and solar system and sun and
The
moon and
sun. Well,
tides.
and so I wanted to make sure that I asked you
Yes.
and so about the planetary update. And so this just knowing that these episodes, they're kind of staggered out a bit.
Yeah.
So what you say is probably going to be more like in December
Oh,
that
okay.
people hear
Good.
this. It's
Good.
October now, but
Right.
just what was it? There was something about the planetary update that needs to come through
Yes. Thank you
here.
for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm part of the Unify, which is 1111.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
that what wanted to come through was very much about an update for this planet and for what's happening, and just things that I said earlier about the remembrance. As more of us remember, then collectively we can access, the energy. This planet provides everything we need. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just a it's not just a meme. And so a lot of it has been hidden away from us, either, knowingly or unknowingly, waiting for us to reach that frequency, to reach that space of, yes, we can accept this. Yes, we're ready, to hold this information and these resources and these other species in a
Mm-hmm.
very high reverence,
Mm-hmm.
and so the update is very much about tuning in, opening the grids, understanding what's happening on the inner earth realm, um, the telluric realm, the
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned the grid work, and a lot of
Right.
us do that. So it
Yeah.
all coming to all coming full circle to access our own innate divine nature.
Yeah.
That's what all of it is about. It's activating and remembering. And then there might be some clearing, right? Some shadow work, some old
Mm-hmm.
programs that need to be dissolved and updated, because we run on a lot of programs. So, yeah, it's to assist in that, and to, allow people to again trust
Trust.
themselves, trust their relationship
Trust
to
the
the
relationship.
earth, right?
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
what it's about, and we're there, and the planet is also getting upgraded. It's not just
Right.
us, it's her. And so, you know the freedom that we've all wanted, we've been coming out of such an interesting time, but to have the freedom, to have the resources, everything that we want is there. It's just going to take a shift in the consciousness and a remembrance.
A shift
So,
in consciousness and the
yes,
remembrance. Yes. And
yes,
I
right.
I wanted to just say that like the grid work part, I really feel like you're here also speaking today, because so many people do it and they don't even consciously
Yes.
know. Yeah. I mean, I was doing it my whole life and I didn't know until about 7 years ago that that's what why I was traveling to all these sacred sites. I was just going, but I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was doing this. And then once I
Yeah.
realized it, so, I mean, so people out there listening, I mean, if you're one of these people that just tends to go to places and you don't
Yeah.
know why you're drawn, but you just
Yeah. That
are,
happened
tune
for
in.
me. Yeah. And again, I think we're all shooting into our intuition. So it's
Right.
to follow the
Mhm.
intuition is to follow the signs, right? To follow
Yeah.
whoever shows up. There's a reason, you know, it's tuning into the subtle energy, the
Subtle
subtle
energy.
grids. Yeah, the energy doesn't have to speak so loud, but there's
Mhm.
so much power in it. And I think this is also the return to, you know, our true power. And as the
Yeah.
feminine, it's different. We've been, you know, we're coming
Mhm.
out of this amnesia, but we really have, we hold a lot of power in our body, in our energy field, you know, in what we do. And
Mhm.
for some, it is the amnesia to wear off. So we remember who we are and why we're here and what's really important. I think we've had that lesson in the last few years. What's really important, everybody? Is it stuff? You know, is it money? Is it fame? Is it all this? Or is it family? Is it the planet? Is it, you know, what matters? We're
Mhm.
really got tested on that. So I feel like we're at a better place now
Right.
to be able to be those stewards of this planet. You know, we are her.
Mhm.
She's fine. You know, if we disappeared tomorrow, she'd be fine. But we're here. So how do we all live together in a sustainable way?
Sustainable
You know,
way. Yes.
of
Yeah.
course. Otherwise, none of this matters if we can't sustain life here.
Yeah.
So I think this has been the the wake up call of the century for all of us. You know, and as we remember our roles, we're able to bring that information in. So I'm really excited for this, you know, for what's this update. And it's really the theme is reseeding Gaia,
Leading
you
guide.
know, as these stewards.
Mhm.
And it's the potency, it's our potency in these human bodies. um, you know, are we living up to that potency? We don't know. A lot of people aren't sure because they've been told this is what's important, not this, you know, or you got to hold everything and do everything, otherwise you're a failure. There's so many things and messages. So
Yeah, it gets a little overwhelming,
it
doesn't it,
gets,
for people?
of course. And so it's that tuning into the body's wisdom. The body
Mhm.
is very smart, you know, it's highly
Sensitive.
attuned, sensitive. If we create the right environment, you know, and
Mhm.
that starts from within, it's
That starts from
cultivating,
within.
right? That peace, the things that I learned growing up, I was able to take, you know, with me, even in
Mhm.
business. But then it got to be too much that I had to, you know, really come back into my own practice and my own field and what
Mhm.
I was here to do on a bigger level. So I
Yeah.
kept asking questions,
Keep
kept
asking
saying next.
questions.
Yeah, what's next? What, you know, what's next? What's coming? Like, so that curiosity kept me, you know, researching and looking and reading and listening and trusting, right? And I had to go through a lot of things, and some of it was, okay, I can't do it this way again. You know, I had to redo it because it wasn't authentic. It was old. It
Mhm.
was trauma. It was coming from a not authentic place, you know, something I had learned or I had created. So
Mhm.
a lot of it has been the uncreation, right? To
Right.
uncreate what you've learned. Although I learned a lot of great skills, I also had a lot of trauma, because of, you know, just wounding from my father and things, you know, that many of
Right.
us
Just
have. Yeah,
mhm.
so just being able to come through that and understand what, you know, again, it's that worth. I mean, I just saw a meme today. They're saying if you have high self-worth, I mean, can you consider yourself lucky? Because that's one of the things that has
Right.
not been, you know,
It's somehow how to take that and become empowered by it rather than
defeated or
defeated by it.
Because we have such expectations for
Mhm.
people, for kids, right, and what they're supposed to do, and it's focused on academics and money, and
Mhm.
what's success. We're having to redefine what it means.
Right.
Right.
Just let that definition go.
Yeah. Where's
Let
your
word
heart?
go.
Yeah, like it's great. I mean, I'm all for success, but where's your heart? As long as your
Yeah.
heart and you're in balance.
Heartfelt
And
success or
of
heartful
course.
success. Right. Yeah.
And we're at the point where it's for all of us. We can't
Mhm.
have these, it's very, the distribution of wealth and resources is so off balance, and it's just not we can't sustain that.
We need more people speaking up about that,
Yeah,
right?
it's all of us. It's all of us. This has to be, everyone has to have access to everything. That's it.
Well, I so appreciate you being a voice for all of that and coming here today and spending time
Thank you for having
with me and my audience. And before we say goodbye, how can people connect with you? How can they learn more about what you do and what you offer?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. This is really fun. I have a website, which is just my full name, valerieelster.com. I'm very active on Facebook under Valerie Elster. I do a lot of posts, as you know, about what's happening on the planet. I'm also on Instagram. So yeah, either one, either Facebook or social, or directly through my website. So
great.
yeah.
Okay, and I'll have that information in the description for this episode as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
Much. Thank you, everybody.
I hope that you all got some good pearls of wisdom to live a divinely inspired life every day.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. Again, I am your host, Patricia Wald Hopkins, and I am so glad that you joined us here today. I hope you left with some soul food to inspire your daily life. And if you would like to learn more about my work, please check out my website, patriciawaldhopkins.com, and you can find out more about my divinely inspired practice and tools. So, thank you again. Have a beautiful day. Hi. I'm dropping in here with an announcement about a program, a new mentorship that I am offering. It's called Voices of Gaia, and it's about bringing your voice, your leadership, your life in alignment with Gaia's guidance. So if you feel called to learn more about this program, it's a beautiful, rich program where we dive into your essence, and if you so desire, we develop your business around it and really blossom into your whole lifestyle, this wisdom from Gaia that wants to be spoken through you. So if you feel called, reach out to me at patriciawaldhopkins.com. That's patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. There's no hyphen between Wald and Hopkins. And I would just love to hear from you and see if this is a good fit. So thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.